Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I was editing this video and realized that there is no introduction. So here I am editing and gonna give you the introduction. So we went to North Carolina to see my in-laws and spend time with the new baby that just arrived a few weeks ago. We had such a good time. I hope you enjoy this vlog. I didn't vlog as much as I wanted to because I was just spending time with family. I was just having a good time, hanging out with everyone and just relaxing. Also, Tropical Storm Debby came through the day before we left. That was fun. I didn't realize how much rain was going to come down. Thankfully, we were in North Carolina and in a part of North Carolina that wasn't getting torrential downpours like South Carolina was. So we were very fortunate. But I hope you all like this video. Make sure that you always like and subscribe and check my description box if you'd like to follow me on any socials, my Pango Books account, my Patreon, and so much more. I also have my Bookish Box Ambassador link down there. So enjoy all the craziness you're about to see, and I'll see you in the next video. Hello everyone. So today is Tuesday. We have made it to North Carolina. We got in late Sunday night, and yesterday we kind of just relaxed. I was pretty exhausted. We did it in a one-shot trip. I drove like 16 and a half hours. So we just relaxed with family yesterday. Didn't really do much. So let me catch you up on what I have completed reading and what I am reading currently, because the trip I actually was able to finish one audiobook and get through almost an entire other one. So I finished up Lady of Darkness by Melissa K. Rorick. This book is the first book in a 5 or 6 book series. It is a dark fantasy romance. Our girl has to take a tonic every single night so she doesn't get sick, and we don't quite know why yet. She has kind of like a bond or a relationship with the prince. More or less, I think she does it just to get some information. In comes the general of one of the armies that the kingdom has, and she has been like gravitating towards him. It deals with fae, it deals with magic, it deals with fated mates. It is a dark fantasy romance. I will put more thoughts in my wrap up at the end of the month, but I absolutely loved this. I felt like the banter was great. I felt like the pacing was great. The first probably half of the book, maybe under half, I was a little iffy on if I was gonna like it, but then it just really took off. I can't wait to get into the second book, which I think I'm going to start on the drive home. Probably will finish it on the drive home, possibly, but I really loved it. It left on a cliffhanger. I definitely see where the hype is for this series, because the whole time I was like, what is going to happen next? The reveals, the plot twists at the end of the first book had me just over the moon shook about things. So I absolutely loved it. It's our Patreon book club pick of the month, and I'm loving it. I loved every single aspect of it. Like I said, it deals with fae, fated mates. It's just one of those dark fantasy romances that the first book really did a whole lot of world building, and you were learning as the character was learning, which was great. But I can't wait to see what, I think it's Lady of Shadows. I can't wait to see where this story goes. I am hooked and I am ready to get back with these characters. It has the found family aspect, just so many good things. The next book that I did start is The Sinner by Chantal Tessier. This is book 2 in the Lords series. I did read The Ritual at the beginning of the month. Absolutely loved it. These are standalones in an interconnected world. So in The Sinner, you are seeing our couple from the first book kind of come in and out of the series, and I'm loving it. It is a dark romance. this one is extremely spicy, borderlining on like just straight erotica. But I love it because the Lords series is about this college where these men are a part of the Lords, and they spend their freshman, sophomore, and junior years being celibate. They have to do these initiations where they go and act out these commands that the Lords have set for them, like killing their targets and such, and they don't ask questions. They are just supposed to do them. On their senior year, they are allowed to have a chosen, which means they can do whatever they want to this chosen, use them in any way they want. But our guy, Sin, in the center, he doesn't want his chosen. He already knows who he wants, and it is a girl he has known almost his entire life. And it is all about their story. This one has a lot of dark themes to it, a lot of trigger warnings, more than the first book, The Ritual, had. So definitely check those before you go into it. But this is a extremely dark romance. It has the kind of academia aesthetic a little bit, but they really don't go to classes or anything, but they are in college. I'm really loving it. I'm loving the storyline, and I'm loving how like the arc progression goes with each of these guys. I can definitely see that there is kind of a similar storyline where, you know, things happen and then all of a sudden like the third act breakup thing happens where they don't really break up, but somebody comes and tells them something that they think is the truth, and then they flee, and then now, you know, the guy is trying to get the girl back, and come to find out it wasn't even accurate in itself. So I'm really loving this. I can't wait to get into book 3, which I think is The Sacrifice, possibly, because I know who it's about and I absolutely love him. But I would say out of the 2 books so far, Sin in the Center is my absolute favorite. So if you are a dark romance girly, definitely go check this book out. And then the next book that I am currently physically reading is Modern Fairy Tales by Holly Black. I am only like 16 pages into this. This has 4 short stories bound up into one, and it's kind of like you are going back into fairy and, you know, seeing different cast of characters and such. And these were written like such a long time ago, but I'm really enjoying it. I don't really have many thoughts so far because, like I said, I'm 16 pages in. I barely know what the plot is of the first book, which is Tithe, but I can't wait to see what Holly Black does with this. And this bound up copy has the 4th book in here, and it is called The Lament of Ludi Lou, I think. And so it is one of those that like didn't get published unless you got the bound up. So I love Holly Black. I love her writing. I love her worlds, and I love the Cruel Prince series. So I can't wait to see what happens in this. Okay, so we have some fun things going on this week. I'm going to take you along with me. Currently, we are sitting outside of Dunkin' because where I live, there is a Dunkin' that's like 30 minutes away. It's not convenient, but up until like a year ago, there was no Dunkin'. So I always just had to buy the stuff at like Walmart and then use it in my Keurig or whatever, and that's not necessarily the same. So I am using this to my full advantage being out here in North Carolina, because this Dunkin' is just right down the street from my in-laws, and we're gonna go in there. I'm gonna read a little bit of my book, get a drink, kind of just, you know, take the vibes. The husband and I are also going to go out and get some lunch here in a little bit, which I'm pretty excited for, because there is a place here that you can get hibachi, and he absolutely loves it. So we're going to go get some of that for this afternoon, and then just kind of hang out with family today. Not really do a whole lot. I'll probably get some reading done before I take a nap, because it's vacation and I'm going to take naps, and I'm going to love every minute of it. But then we also have his grandparents coming in tomorrow, so we get to spend time with them. And then on Thursday, I think we're going to go to the town over from here to a Barnes & Noble, because where I live, A Barnes & Noble is about an hour away, and again, that's not convenient to go to very often. So I'm going to take full access of that. We're going to go to Barnes & Noble with my mother-in-law. I'm going to pick up a book for my father-in-law. I was just talking to him about it this morning because he likes those fiction thriller mysteries, and I told him about The Silent Patient, so I think I'm going to pick that up for him. But we today are going to go in here to Dunkin' and then get some lunch. Let me show you. I got the husband along with me. He's not even awake yet, but I am pretty excited. We are going to be leaving late Friday night, unfortunately, but you know, I'm happy to be here for a couple days, and I'm going to be taking you along with me, and then I'll get some B-roll on the drive back. I didn't get any on the way out here because, to be honest, I was just feeling the vibes. I was just listening to my books and just going along, but yeah, I'm having a good time so far. It's been quite relaxing, and yeah, whenever we get back to the house, I will update you on my modern fairy tales, but let's head on in there to Dunkin'. So today is Wednesday. We decided to get out and about in Salisbury, and we are going to the book company, I think is what it's called here in Salisbury. It's like a locally owned bookstore. I have some updates for you whenever we get back to the house on Modern Fairy Tales by Holly Black. I made it 95 pages in, I believe, yesterday, and I'm intrigued. I can't wait to give you the updates on that, but let's get on into the bookstore and see what they have. I was going to update you. I have been reading just a little bit, and the thing is, I am not loving the writing style. I feel like it's very juvenile. It's kind of all over the place. Like, whenever it starts out, you are following our girl Kay, who has been basically bouncing around from place to place. Her mom doesn't have a steady income, doesn't have a steady place to live. And you don't even know what age she is, but she's drinking, she's smoking, all of these things. So you think 18, 19, 20, maybe 21. I had to Google this. She's 16. So I was like, okay, the first book was written in 2002. So you got to think of the time period that it was written in. And then also, I don't like the way this is written, because you'll be in Kay's mind and she'll be telling you, I used to know Gristle, Spike, and Ludi Lou that are fairies, and everyone around her is like, oh, those are your imaginary, friends. And then, like, the way that it's written, you're supposed to just automatically know what's happening. You're supposed to automatically know who Janet is, which is her friend, who her mom and grandmother are, who these fairies are, who Corny, who is Janet's brother, is. Like, you're supposed to already know these things. So is there a book that was supposed to be before this? Because I can't find anything on that. Also, whenever we are talking, like, she has green skin. So whenever, like, she's shedding her normal skin, Corny sees her with green skin and he's like, I knew it. I knew it. I knew that you were different. And then, like, he's just believing her. It's strange, but I'm also intrigued. I'm also here. I am 106 pages into Tithe, which there's only like 265 pages. So I'm hoping to finish this up either today or tomorrow, which tomorrow is Thursday. They did cancel school out here the first day, which is supposed to be tomorrow, because of the hurricane that was coming up the coast. It's not like a hurricane anymore, but it's dropping like an exorbitant amount of water and rain. And I guess South Carolina was getting like 24 to 30 inches. We're in North Carolina, and they canceled school for tomorrow. So we're going to see how that's going to be. And then Friday, we have a little family thing, and then we're going to be leaving later that night to head back home. So I'm hoping that I can at least get through Tithe and maybe start, I think it's Valiant, which is next. And I found out that these 3 or 4 novellas tie in to the Folk of the Air series, because what they're talking about in here does tie back to that. They talk about the High Court of Elfheim. They talk about the Court of Termites. They talk about a lot of different things. So now, after I get done reading this, I want to go back and read the Folk of the Air series, but I want to read The Darkest Part of the Forest first, and then go back and read it and see if I can get any correlating things, because I did read online that some of these characters do come into play in the Folk of the Air series. So I'm intrigued. I love Holly Black. This may not be my absolute favorite by her so far, and the way that the writing is, I'm not excited for, but I'm hooked nonetheless. So I will give you updates later on whenever I get a little bit further into this. All right, you guys. So I have made it, let's see, 182 pages into the first book, which is Tithe. And I think I might get close to finishing it tonight. I'm so excited because I'm really into this story. Basically, the first story is about a girl named Kay who travels from home to home. I think I've already given you a synopsis, but basically she's dropped out of school. She's 16, but she can see the fairies. And all of a sudden, she gets wrapped up in this. Come to find out, she is a fairy. She's a pixie, I think. So she is supposed to be the sacrifice at this tithe. And our male love interest, his name is Roybin. And he is kind of like a knight in the Unseelie Court. He was supposed to be a knight in the Seelie Court, but he ended up being traded or something. Somehow he ended up there. She knows his full name. So as she is being sacrificed, she's like, you know, Wrath, Roybin, Rye, cut my bonds or whatever. So she gets free. I'm at the point where they're fleeing from the Unseelie Court. I can't wait to see how this is going to be wrapped up. But I do believe from reading the back of this, I think all three of these stories are kind of like all together. So like the next book, Valiant, I believe is going to continue the story, but it says on here there is a runaway named Valerie from New York City, and I'm wondering if she comes into play in Valiant, and then maybe like Ironside being the third book, it kind of all ties together. I'm not quite sure, but like I said, the writing isn't that great. I really am not connecting with the writing or the way that like it's told, because I feel like whenever we hear a sentence, whenever we hear, you know, like what is happening, I feel like there's just too much being left out. I feel like there's not enough backstory. There's not enough anything going on. So I'm like, how did we get here? How did we get to this point? I don't understand what you're saying. Like, it's very vague and I'm not really liking it. But it does say Return to Fairy on the back. But these were written, let me see. Yeah, so Tithe was written in 2002, Valiant in 2005, and Ironside in 2007. And then The Lament of Ludi Lou, which is the extra short story in here, was written in 2019. But whenever you look at the beginning of here, of all of the books that Holly Black has written, it doesn't have anything in here about the Cruel Prince or the Folk of the Air series or even the Darkest Part of the Forest. So I'm not sure. Like, I know she wrote the Spiderwick Chronicles, but there's also the Curse Workers, White Cat, Red Glove, Black Heart. So I'm going to assume those are like maybe Alice in Wonderland retelling type things. And then also the Poison Eaters and other stories like Zombies versus Unicorns and Doll Bones, which doesn't sound like a fairy story. So what do you mean Return to Fairy? Like, what do you mean? So I'm just wondering, like, is there another book out there that she co-wrote that gives you some backstory to this? Because if you were to just read Tithe, it honestly doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. It doesn't make sense. I'm confused. I really, really am. But you do hear about the Court of Termites in the Folk of the Air series, and that is where they're at right now. So, like I said, I'm excited to finish up these short stories, read The Darkest Part of the Forest, and then go back and read The Folk of the Air, see how that's going. But that's where I'm at. It is currently, I think it's about 9 o'clock tonight. I'm still like on Central Time, but it's 9 o'clock Eastern, so I don't know, I'm feeling a little tired. I don't know how far I'm going to get, but I'm hoping that I can start Valiant tomorrow. I know that I was wanting to get this whole thing read before my vacation was over, but nonetheless, you know, we've been spending time with family, we've been going out and doing things, not really a whole lot. We've just been kind of staying at my in-laws, really just hanging out with them. But tomorrow we're going to be going to, I think, Barnes & Noble with my mother-in-law, and I think we're going to get some pizza to bring home and have that tomorrow night. And I know that my husband's grandparents are in town as well, so we're probably going to be spending some time with them. I don't know how much footage I'm going to get. And then we have our family thing going on Friday. And then I'm going to be going to bed a little bit early because we're going to be heading out about 2 or 3 in the morning to drive back. So that's where we're at. I guess we'll see how far I get. I'll update you guys in the morning. I'm currently laying in bed right now, just reading, while my husband and his mom are out there watching NCIS. I'm giving them a little bit of time because he doesn't get to spend a whole lot of time with them, and I want him to. So I guess we'll see how far I get. I'll update you guys in the morning. At a weird angle because there's no way to get you propped up any better. So I apologize for the angle. I'm sure you saw in the B-roll, we went to Barnes and Noble today. We got like this huge pizza as well as like 24 inches. And also we are in the throes of Tropical Storm Debby. Hopefully by middle tonight, early tomorrow morning, we should be out of that, thankfully. It was raining pretty hard this morning, But I do have some updates for you. I did get through Tithe last night, so I am starting Valiant. And I really like how it's kind of broken up in here, where like then it, just starts. And then you get like a little prologue for Valiant. But let's talk about Tithe. So I know that I've already talked about how terrible the writing is. I really don't feel like it flowed together well. I don't feel like the writing was at all great. The person that really pulled this story for me was Roybin, who is a fairy in the Unseelie Court. He's a knight. And I didn't feel even the romance between him and Kay, who's our female main character. But maybe as Valiant and Ironside go along, maybe I will feel that. But like Roybin, oh my goodness, this man hardly did anything, and I was swooning, okay? And whenever I say hardly did anything, like very little did he do, and I was here for it. I was like, why do I love Roybin so much? So I can't wait to continue on with Valiant. I would probably say Tithe was probably like a 2.5 or a 3-star for me. I don't think it was Holly Black's best writing ever. Maybe this was her first dive into like fairies and maybe like young adult type literature, but maybe a 2.5 or a 3. But I'm not going to really rate each novella, not really novella, but short story. I'm just going to rate this whole thing all together because that's what I'm counting as my Battleathon count. So I need to get through the other two plus the Lament of Ludi Lou at the end of this, and then I'll give you my final thoughts like as a whole. But if you went to go read Tithe by itself, it's hard to get through, but I feel like it's going to pay off very well with the other two stories in here. So we're going to see, but those are my thoughts. I did finish that. I mean, finishing it, I still have all of this to go. It's wild, but I mean, there is 3 books in here. So whenever we were at Barnes and Noble earlier, I did pick up another Holly Black book. You'll see what that is here in a moment, but I saw where they had the 3 stories in like individual paperbacks, and I was like, I like my bind up better. I don't need to buy all 3 of them. So now let's get into the book haul, okay? But first, we went to Walmart earlier today because we needed to pick up a few things before we head out, and I got the 4th book, If We Were Perfect by Anna Huang. It has the sprayed edges and everything. I still haven't read the series, but now I have the complete sprayed edged series, so I can't wait to kind of get into this series. I did see them at Barnes & Noble as well, but I went ahead and just picked it up because I didn't know if it was going to be at Barnes & Noble whenever I got there, and I didn't want to miss out on making my set whole. And also, not only do I apologize for the angle, but I also apologize if you hear the rain. Like I said, Debbie is just having a tantrum outside, so we got to deal with it. The next book, what is this? The next 6 books that I got, I got from Barnes & Noble, and they really didn't have a huge sci-fi fantasy section or even a huge romance section. I was really underwhelmed because I don't get to go to Barnes & Noble very often, but it is what it is. But the first book that I got was Flock by Kate Stewart. I have heard so many people talk about this series. Now, granted, I've heard negative things, I've heard positive things, but I don't know what this book is about. All it says is it's a modern day Robin Hood retelling that is steamy, intensely emotional, and utterly original. I have heard that this is like a why choose, but I'm not sure if it is. So I really want to dive into this and kind of see what is going on, because I know one of my book boxes coming up is going to have a special edition. So I need to know if I want to pick it up. So I ended up picking up Flock. The next one I picked up was the other Holly Black book I got, which is The Darkest Part of the Forest, which I found out is also another story that is in the Folk of the Air series like world. It is set in that same world. It says, in the woods is a glass coffin, and in it sleeps a boy with horns on his head and ears as pointed as knives. So I'm pretty excited that this is also in that world, because after reading these 3 books, Tithe, Valiant, and Ironside, I want to read this and then go back and read the Folk of the Air series, because I want to have just like the whole world. I want to be consumed by the whole world, and I want to see if any of these characters or the ones in the 3 stories, if any of them make an appearance in the Folk of the Air series now that I know who they are. So that's what I'm planning on doing. So that's why I picked up this book. Y'all, this rain has me wanting to go to sleep so bad. But tomorrow is the day that we're spending with family, and then I'm going to go to bed early, and then we're driving out like at 2 o'clock in the morning. So that's what's going to be happening. So I got to stay awake a little bit longer. The next book that I picked up was Bound to the Shadow Prince by Ruby Dixon. Now, I did not like Ice Planet Barbarians. I was not on that hype train. I did not like the blue aliens. I thought it was weird. I know people like it, but I wanted to give Ruby Dixon another try, and I have heard a lot of people that I have come to, really respect their ratings and everything, because we kind of have similar tastes. They said that it's actually pretty decent and pretty good. So I picked this up and I was like, let's just see what she does whenever they're not aliens. The next book I got, I have heard so many people rave about this book recently, and that is The Love of My Afterlife by Christy Greenwood. The only thing I know about this book is that she dies, and while she's in kind of like the afterlife waiting room, she ends up meeting a man who is her soulmate, but he is whisked away because there was an issue and he wasn't supposed to die, so he's been put back to Earth. She then also says that she'll get a second chance at life and love if she finds him on Earth within 10 days. So that's all I know. I can't wait to try it. There's so many different blurbs on here. Complicated, dreamy, and hilarious. A gorgeously addictive romp of romantic comedy with added magic. So I wanted to kind of see what this is about. I mean, this sounds kind of something right up my alley. It would be a great palate cleanser. So I thought, why not? Let's just give it a try. The next book I got is a little out of my comfort zone. I don't know if I'm going to like it. I don't know if I should even try, but I picked it up because I've heard so many people rave about it. And that is The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. I don't think that this is going to be something that I'm going to love. I am going to give it a try because I'm all about trying books out of my comfort zone. The only thing I do know about this is that this girl is gifted an apartment that her aunt used to live in, and whenever she is there, there is someone else that lives there, another guy, but he is 7 years in the past, and somehow there is a romance that sparks between them. I'm kind of excited to see how that will be. Now, I will say, just hearing that alone makes me think of the Sandra Bullock movie, The Lake House, I believe, where they were 5 years, I think, maybe, difference. So I'm pretty excited. I can't wait to see how this plays out. Will I like it? Will I not like it? I'm all about giving it a try, but whenever I had heard a lot of people saying that's what it was about, I was like, well, I loved The Lake House. Wouldn't I like this? So we'll just see. And then the last book I got was a nonfiction book, but I have been eyeing it for months, and I finally just said, you know what, I'm getting it. And that is Killing the Witches by Bill O'Reilly, The Horror of Salem, Massachusetts. This is a nonfiction. It's all about the witch trials and even years past, like how the witch trials affected the society and everything for decades to come. So I'm excited to dive into this because every now and again I like my nonfiction, and I wanted to kind of see what his take is whenever he writes about this. But it is written in a way that is pretty neat. Like, The chapter headings are kind of like if you were reading like a journal entry is what it is. So, and there's also footnotes throughout it and everything. So I'm pretty excited to dive into this. I know that not a lot of people like nonfiction, but I like to dabble in it from time to time. All right, so those are all of the books I got. I am going to start reading Valiant tonight, see how far I get. I don't know. I'm pretty tired. You probably see how many times I have edited this video because I just keep yawning. It's because of the rain. Debbie is making me want to sleep. So I am going to go see how much of Valiant I get. We just got done eating some pizza with the family. I'm going to go sit out there for a little bit with them. And then maybe just read some Valiant, get a little bit cozy. I don't know if I'll get any B-roll tonight or not. If I do, you'll see it. If not, it's because I probably fell asleep shortly after filming this. But yeah, tomorrow is going to be all about family, and then I'm going to get to bed probably like around 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening so I can get up at 1 and then head on out. And we're going to make the drive in one trip because I miss my cat so much, and I just kind of miss, you know, just being at home in your own element. You know, there's just something about being at home, right? Like, I love my in-laws. I love being here. So I am going to miss them, but we'll be out again. And I also was really sad because I didn't get to see Vanessa, who is one of my subscribers and Patreon members. We had it all planned out that we were going to go to this Mexican restaurant and everything. Unfortunately, things happened with me personally and my family and everything that I was having to deal with and still am dealing with. And we cut our trip short, so I wasn't able to see her. So Vanessa, I will be back out, I promise, and we are going to meet up. But other than that, everybody, I will talk to you whenever I have more updates. Hello, you guys. So today is Sunday. I did not update you yesterday whenever we got home. We got home about 5:15, I think, maybe 5:30, somewhere in there. I messaged my family and let them know. I had my cousin come by and get their White Castle crave case and my brother's because I stopped at White Castle. We're a family of White Castle lovers, and where we live you can't get White Castle within like a 4-hour radius. So stopped and got everyone those. We unpacked everything, got everything situated. Of course, the apartment is clean, so we don't have to worry about that. And I went to bed at 7. I went to bed at 7 o'clock last night and woke up at 7 o'clock this morning. Now, granted, I was up off and on throughout the night. My cat has wanted me to hold her literally the entire time we've been home. She cuddled with me in bed and everything, but I was just exhausted. I was getting sick and nauseous for how long I had been up, because we left North Carolina around 2 o'clock in the morning East Coast time, which would be 1 o'clock in the morning our time here, and we got home like at 5:15. So that was, a little over 16 hours that I had been on the road, that I had been up, and I was just exhausted. I wanted to go to bed. So sorry for not updating you guys, but a lot happened. I hope I got footage of us driving a little bit yesterday, but a lot happened during that drive. I finished up The Sinner by Chantal Tessier. Probably within the first 4 hours of the drive. I ended up giving this book 4 stars. I don't think that it hit nearly as good as The Ritual, because The Ritual was my first kind of deep dive into this world and the lords and how everything works. The Sinner goes along the same timeline as The Ritual. So you see what's happening with the people in The Ritual while The Sinner is going on. So it's actually pretty neat that happened. This one was very, very dark, very trigger warning heavy. So definitely check that, because there was so much more that happened. There was, attempted sexual assault. There was a lot of things. So you definitely need to check trigger warnings before you go into this book, but especially even the first book in the entire series. I did notice that the way the storyline went, it was kind of the same setup as the first book. You get probably 60% of the way through the book, it's building up, at the very beginning, what the guy goes through to become a lord. Then he gets to have his chosen. Then, you see their relationship unfold. You see them both getting attached to each other. And then someone comes along 60% of the way through, whoever the villain of the story is, and they say something to that chosen person and they believe them. And so then they run off or they do whatever. And then you're spending the next 30% trying to get them back, get them to trust you, and then you get to see how it wraps up. And I do like that the author does these 2 epilogues. The first epilogue is always from the guy's point of view, and it is kind of the things that happen immediately after the story ends. Then you have the second epilogue, which is also from the guy's point of view. That's 18 years later. So I did find out from my cousin that all of these books, they have children that are all around the same age. So I think Chantal Tessier is building it up to where she can do a second generation of the Lords series if she wants to. But it's pretty neat how that kind of happened. So again, 4 stars. I really did enjoy the story. I felt like this one was a lot more impactful, because some of the things that our girl goes through, or the way that she feels, is very I don't know, emotionally and mentally heavy. So I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed Sin as a character. He is very unhinged, extremely dark. He does not do anything the conventional way or the right way. So, again, 4 stars. I can't wait to continue on. I think the next one is called The Sacrifice, and I think it's from Tyson's point of view. And ever since book 1, I am really, really intrigued with Tyson. I want to see his story. I want to see how things unfold. And we're just going to, get to that. I think I'm going to take a little bit of a break from it, though, because I need a little bit of a break from that series, seeing how she writes the books, like the story, and then the 60% mark, something happens, and, it's kind of the same setup. So I just need a little bit of a break so I don't get, like, burnt out on it. And then I think Carnage is about a character. I don't know if I've met that character yet, but then I think the next book is called Madness, and Madness comes out this year. Like, I don't know if it's already out or will be coming out. But yeah, I need to take a little bit of a break, but I can't wait to get back to that series. So then, of course, I went into another audiobook, which I decided, it was on Everand, which used to be called Scribd. These short stories, novellas, whatever you want to call them, they are all on there. So I decided to download them before we left so I could just listen to them as we go. I finished up all 3 of the remaining short stories in this whole series. So the first one that I read was The Dark One by Nikki St. Croix, which is book 2 in, what is it called? The Vicious Lost Boys series, something like that. It's a continuation from book 1. I really can't tell you a whole lot about it. It would run things from book 1. This is a continuation. Of course, this series is like a Peter Pan reimagining, where you have Peter Pan, the Lost Boys, and of course Captain Hook, Crocodile. They're all characters in this series. I really love it because the series is based off of every time a darling becomes 18 years old, they are kidnapped and brought to Neverland by Peter Pan, and they are basically rummaged around in their brain by the Fey Queen to try to get information on where to find Peter Pan's shadow. So Winnie Darling is the newest darling to be kidnapped, and she is whisked away to Neverland. Lo and behold, she ends up having a relationship with 2 Fey princes who are part of the Lost Boys, Peter Pan, and then also another one called Vane, who is called the Dark One. And she ends up being in like a reverse harem, why choose situation. I really, really loved this series. This one kind of was the least of the 4 that I liked because this one was very, very smut heavy. Like, there was not really a whole lot of plot that continued the story. There was just nothing but smut, nothing but, a lot of fun times happening. And I was like, I really want more of the story. We built up this story in the first book. It kind of came to a head. We have like some closure on that part of the plot, but there's like a whole other plot that we need to figure out. This one really didn't progress it. It was all about trying to get the Dark One, to sleep with her. And I was like, okay, I'm kind of over it. I really want more of the story, right? So I gave this one 2 stars, unfortunately, but I did continue on to the next book, which the next book was called Their Vicious Darling, which is book 3. Granted, this had way more plot. I gave this 3 stars. It still had the smut level in there, but not nearly as much as the previous book. This progressed the plot so much. I really enjoyed it. We finally understood who the crocodile is, why he makes such a big appearance, and why Captain Hook is a big deal, why the darlings are a big deal. Tinkerbell, the whole cast of characters, like the plot line just expands so much. So I did enjoy this one a little bit more than the previous book. I will say one of the characters in here that does like a huge betrayal, I wanted more out of that. I wanted to know more about it. I wanted to really kind of digest it and maybe expand upon it, but I felt like we find out why they did what they did and who they did it to and all of this stuff, and then it's like she was chased away and then that was it. There wasn't anything else to it, and I was like, come on, I want more, right? Like, I wanted more. And I didn't get that. But I really enjoyed this one, 3 stars. I then did continue on to the 4th and final book in this series, which is called The Fae Princes. And this wrapped up the entire storyline for Peter Pan and the Lost Boys and Winnie Darling. Now, there is a spin-off book called The Devourer of Men, which is about the crocodile. And I think it's only a 1-book thing, and it is after this one, but this wraps up, you know, the story with Peter Pan and Tinkerbell, the Lost Boys, Winnie Darling, all of them. I loved how it wrapped up. I loved how everything kind of came together, and, you know, their whole relationship, and, you know, how things are going to be going forward. So again, I gave this one 4 stars. It was a lot better than the previous one, and it definitely ended on a really good note, and I felt very satisfied with it. So if you are looking for a dark romance Peter Pan reimagining, I highly suggest picking out the Never King series, or the Vicious Lost Boys series, whatever you want to call it. They are extremely good. Nikki St. Croix did an amazing job on these, and I'm really glad that I read them. I am going to listen to Devourer of Men next, because I really want to know what happens with Crocodile, Captain Hook, and that storyline that kind of was left open-ended at the end of the 3rd book. So I can't wait. I can't wait to see what happens. My cousin says that it's absolutely amazing. So I'm also going to see if Nikki St. Croix did a Patreon exclusive of Devourer of Men, so I can have it for the whole set, because these are the Patreon exclusives. But yeah, I'm really happy overall with these 4 books and this series. I now know what it was about. I enjoyed it. I wouldn't say that it's one of my favorite series of all time, but it was good nonetheless. And then lastly, I was reading Valiant, which is book 2 in this little bind up of short stories by Holly Black. I only got to chapter 7 of Valiant, which I have about 125 more pages to go for this 2nd book. So we are going to sit here and we are going to read it until it is finished. I am going to give you my thoughts on the 2nd book before I go on to the 3rd and final one, which is called Ironside. But I can see how all 3 of these books are going to connect together. I'm excited to get to Ironside, because then once I finish up this bind up and the Lament of Ludi Lou, I'm going to read The Darkest Part of the Forest, but before I get to The Darkest Part of the Forest, I need to finish up my arc of Dirty Lying Wolves. So I'm probably going to have a little bit of a break from this one to The Darkest Part of the Forest, but I did pick that one up, as you saw earlier in the vlog, from Barnes & Noble. So I can't wait to get to that one. And then I'm going to do a little bit of a research. Are there any other books out there before I reread the Folk of the Air series? Because I really just want to see, are these characters in any of these books making appearances? And then I'm going to go on and listen to The Stolen Air again, which is the first book in that spin-off duology, I believe, with Oak. Oak is his name. I'm going to re-listen to the first book in that duology, because I really didn't enjoy it the first time, but maybe after reading these and then reading the Folk of the Air series again, maybe I will like it a little bit more. And then finally get on to the 2nd book that had just came out, which I can't even think of that book yet. But I really want to just read it, because I want to know everything about this world in Elfheim. It's so good. All right, so I am going to sit here and I am going to start reading it and come back to you whenever I have finished that 2nd book in this short story collection, give you my thoughts on it, and then probably wrap up this vlog of me traveling, because I'm back home now and there's no more traveling, sadly. There's no more seeing family out there. I know that my husband had a really good time, but we were just ready to get back home to our own bed and to our own routine and our dwellings, but we really enjoyed it out there nonetheless. So let's just get right into it. Let's just start reading this, and then I'll be back with you in a little bit with my thoughts. guys. I have been reading. I have like 50 pages left of that one book. But I have to show you what has happened every single time I get up from my chair. So here's where I sit and read.
He's hurt.
Don't mind my husband. He's just playing. This little turd steals my seat every time, don't you? Are you going to finish my 50 pages, ma'am? No? Every time I get up to use the restroom or anything, like my lights, she steals it. Okay, so I guess I'm done giving you an update because the husband is playing Call of Duty right now and he's yelling. So,
it's all good.
We'll let him just keep playing. Just had to let you know. Callie, you want to say bye to everybody? Here, I'll get a close-up of you. Say hi, Vivi. Hey everyone, so it's actually a couple hours later. I'm going to end the vlog here. I'm in my pajamas. I'm ready to go to sleep. The last 140 pages that I had to read took me way too long because I found myself wanting to watch YouTube or go to Target or do anything else but read. And that really showed me that book 2, Valiant, wasn't really keeping my interest. You're following our girl Valerie, who walks in on something and completely shatters her world. She runs off to New York City, which is only a train ride away. She, does some things, runs into some people, befriends them, and then gets wrapped up in this whole world. I didn't feel the romance. I didn't feel the characters. I want to give Valiant 2 stars because although it connected the first book to what's going to be happening in the last book, I really didn't care. There was some trigger warnings in here, like animal death, that I did not expect, and it kind of really shook me. And then I had to step away for a little bit. I really didn't feel the romance at all. I didn't feel, really the relationships of friendships and everything in here. Just it all felt bland and boring and, just not, I felt like I was just reading, and like most of the time I was like, why am I reading this? I don't even care. And, sometimes you'll win some, you lose some, and that's the same in books. So, again, 2 stars for Valiant. All I have left is Ironside left in this big, thick book, which you can tell this is just all that I have left. I have about 250 pages, I think, left in here, and it's Ironside, so I'm sure that it's going to wrap up all of these loose stories, ends, and all of these different things that our characters are in, because the characters from the first book came into play at the end of the second book. So now I'm really excited to see where the third book is going to go and how it's going to wrap up this part of Elfhame and how it's going to wrap up, this part of the story with the different cast of characters. You have Ravis and Valerie from the second book. You have Roybin and Kay from the first book, and then also their friends and everything. So I'm really excited. I kind of know where it's going to go, but then again, Holly Black could really throw me off. So I'm going to get to that this week after I get some rest. My eyes are watering because I'm just so tired, and it's just because I did all of the driving back from North Carolina. It was a little over 16 hours, so my body is still just trying to adjust and everything. So since it's Sunday night, I am going to go ahead and close out this vlog. I hope you all had fun coming along with me. I am so sorry that I'm having to edit this part of the video so much because I keep yawning, but I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. I think I read quite a bit in this past week. I really enjoyed all of the books, even the 2-star books that I got. I really enjoyed them, and I just loved being with family, and I just loved being able to read what I wanted and just kind of relax doing it. So I'm going to I have tomorrow, Monday, off, and I'm going to spend that day editing this vlog to get it scheduled and uploaded for Saturday. And then I don't know if I'm going to start doing regular weekly vlogs or not. I guess we'll see how I feel in the morning whenever I start a new vlog. But yeah, I hope you all had fun on this journey, and definitely leave me a car emoji down below if you did watch all the way to this point. And I will see you all in the next video. Bye!